Cool. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Burroaks 77 coming to you live with McAfee. This is Box to Box, hosted by Gold Boys Network. Um, we're sponsored by Pickett and Boom Fantasy. Pickett, great bet tracking app. Boom Fantasy, great daily fantasy app with player props, over unders. We're on international break and it fucking sucks. I'm not gonna lie to you. It sucks. Markets are super limited. Sports books no international break for Euros, some of these friendlies for CONCACAF, for South America. Um, they're not taking the risk by putting out too many markets here early. They might. I fully anticipate that they'll expand their markets after teams get a game or two in, but there are new lineups. There are a lot of new faces on these national teams. Um, I think this is a great time to be new or getting into soccer because we're kind of seeing a lot of the older guys, the old legends age out. It's a perfect time to find the new up and coming young youth stars that you like to follow and follow their teams. And most of where I do a lot of my scouting comes from these international games. This is where I start to find guys like Chuck Ueze, who have been absolutely killing it for us on shots on target, goals, assists, stuff like that. I started catching him by watching the Nigerian Super Eagles, So this is where there might be a little bit less gambling content, but there's great soccer to watch. It's important to watch these international games and see how guys are developing and how they fit, and you can kind of get a sense of where their career trajectory might head by watching these international matches. So that said, we do have some decent ones today, but we don't have lineups, and the numbers are kind of all over the place. So, what I wanted to kind of start with is a little table talk because we are getting to the final third of the season here for a lot of, club league tables. We have a couple of competitive races, we have a couple that are over. I guess I'll start with the ones that are over, and that is 100% Serie A. That shit's over. Napoli has won the Scudetto. It's not mathematically done yet, but there's absolutely no way any team catches up with Napoli unless for some reason, like, all their players get hurt over international duty. And I just don't see that happening. There's 17 points clear of the next closest team. That is a completely insurmountable number, um, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, in Italy, Napoli definitely have it locked down, but it's a very interesting race for the
For
Champions League spots.
two
Uh,
through four is getting real tight.
even down to seven with Juve, they're not out of it.
Absolutely not.
So we could see any order of that shake out between now and the end. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. You mentioned the Nigerian Super Eagles. They're playing right now. They're losing.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're down 1-0. I looked at
mhm.
taking them live. They were still minus 125. I didn't love that number.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but yeah,
wanted to bet a holler goal for the Ivory Coast, but I couldn't find a bet anywhere. Uh,
yeah, the AFCON Cup lines I've been struggling to find.
yeah,
Even some of the Euros qualifiers, like I've been struggling to find lines for some of those across various books. Um, but sticking with Italy,
yeah,
like we were saying, like that 2 through 7 race is all really tight. I personally think Lazio are frauds. I think they're going to drop out of this top four. Um, here pretty quickly. Immobile's kind of the tip of the spear there. He's getting up there in age. He's been hampered with injuries. He still scores awesome PKs, but like other than that, he's really struggling to um, find form and score goals from open play. Inter is a little bit of a mess. They have a big Champions League clash. I still think they finished top four. AC Milan, they've been struggling as well. They still are focused on Champions League too, but they get Zlatan back. I think that back line has played much improved. I think that getting spanked by Spezia might open their eyes a little bit here, but I think AC Milan is um, is a contender for top four. Roma has been struggling through injuries, but they are starting to finally get some players back. I really like Wingelum. I think he does a nice fits a nice role for them. Abrams or Abraham has been in and out of the lineup. Dybala, little nicked up here and there. Pellegrini. I think I know Jose Mourinho is comfortable in Roma and is going to be the manager of Roma next year. And I think Roma, if they can finish in a Champions League spot this season, they're ahead of schedule and they'll be ready to make some noise next year. Atalanta, I like the team a lot. I like the style of play. They couldn't score goals for a long time, and Atalanta can't win games if they can't score goals. So we'll see. Zapata has regressed a little bit for them. Hopefully, he can kind of find a little breakout. Hoiberg had a hat trick yesterday for the national team and scored in Serie A right before he took off. So I'm not super worried about him. He's 19. He'll have some growing pains, but is very good there. And like you said, Juve, this team's good. I would not sleep on Juve to finish outside of a European spot. They might play Conference League. They might play in Europa League. I think it'll be challenging to get enough points to come up and compete with like AC Milan's 48 that they're sitting on right now from 41 points. But I think Juve will be playing European ball next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting because they they had the point deduction already, and I know they're challenging that in court. Um, so that's always in their back pocket. But yeah, if they can handle business without it, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Lazio might be more real than you're giving them credit for because they did beat Napoli, and uh, I think they'll stick around. I think they'll be in there. If you ask me right now who I think is going to make top four, I say Napoli, Lazio, Inter, and Juve. I think Milan will drop out, and I don't think Roma right now. I just can't trust them. I think you know they got or they lost in the Rome derby, um, which was huge. If they would have won that match, I think that would have really propelled them into a top four run. But they've got stuff going on elsewhere. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I mean it's a fun league to bet for sure. I think as long as Osimhen is lining up and his goal is in playable range, you got to just go ahead and plug that in and forget about it. Other than that, yeah, I got no other notes in terms of people going down. I mean, uh, is there any drama at the bottom of the table? Not really. Like
Not
it looks
really. It's
like
Cremonese,
Sampdoria and
Sampdoria.
Verona. Yeah.
Yup.
Yeah, it looks like unless they hit a nice run of form, those are going to be the bottom three.
Um, we're gonna talk about Spain. I don't want to talk about Spain, but we're gonna talk
Why
about
not?
Spain. Or it's a wrap. I mean,
It is.
they
Yep.
and you know, I have to do it. I'm putting on fucking tinfoil hat, Oaks here. Anybody with eyeballs has seen that the La Liga needs Barca to win because they're in such dire financial trouble. Um, and it's pretty blatantly obvious the last four games that they played with the no pen call versus Valencia, with the mystery foul called back goal after they let play continue for 4 minutes against Bilbao, with the very shady offsides call versus Madrid, the non-offsides call on the own goal in Copa del Rey. La Liga needs Barca to succeed, and UEFA stepped in to take over this referee investigation because anybody who's watched any of the last Barcelona games can tell that they're being favored by the referee. The fact that Tony Cruz can get completely cleared the fuck out and nobody gets a foul, a warning, a talking to, and Nacho gets carded on his first foul of the game. There's bias there. There just is, and you can see it when they play. Barcelona is getting favorable calls, and I don't think I'm the only one who sees that. That said, Madrid, we're gonna get second. I don't think Atleti catches us in third. Sociedad, they need to get healthy because Betis is nipping right at their heels. Um, Villarreal is still kind of hanging around the top four there. So yeah, I mean the top spot in Spain is pretty much over.
Mhm.
Barca beating Madrid in El Clasico, that wrapped it up for them. They're 12 points clear. We need to focus on Champions League. It would be nice to knock them out of Copa del Rey to keep a little more prize money away from them, but again, we need to focus on what we can control, and that's Champions League. Um, you can see it when we get neutral refs from other countries. Madrid play a lot better.
I looked it up. The difference between first place and second place is 7 million in La Liga in the terms of the prize money.
For
Um,
now, for now, because they'll shadily add more money to Barca winning. I guarantee it. They will come up with a bigger prize pool to award Barca so that they can go out and sign Messi back, and they can sign all these players that they're committed to signing when they're $1 billion in debt.
yeah, it's I'm bored of the financial stuff, but I understand why it plays so much because yeah, these clubs are so intrinsically linked to the economy and the government. The whole league itself is pretty funny at just the way that it funnels it towards Barca and Real Madrid like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a race, like you said, race is over. Top four. I mean, looks like Sociedad are going to hold on. They struggle for goals, it seems like, but they're just scoring just enough that I think they can hold off Villarreal and Real Betis. So um, Bilbao hasn't really had a fantastic year. Looking at how many games left, there's still plenty of time to move things around, but I think the top four holds, barring anything shocking. So bottom of the table wise, Valencia going down would be huge. Espanyol going down would be huge. Those are two pretty big clubs, but I know Sevilla sacked their manager again.
Yeah, again,
Like,
second time this year.
right.
Um,
So I mean,
and
they're a huge club too.
the weird thing is he was playing winning European football. Like Sevilla smacked PSV around.
Yeah, I mean but there's a difference in prize money between those competitions and the league and staying in La Liga. Like
Oh,
I
for sure.
it's I mean
Yeah, the relegation
you
race
gotta
in La Liga
yeah,
is very tight.
you
You
got to get
know,
a chunk of the big TV money.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's so much more important than anything.
There's
In
only
terms of
5 points separating the bottom 18 or bottom seven of the bottom 8 teams in La Liga. So Girona, I mean, you could even throw Mallorca in there, like Mallorca, Girona, Getafe, Sevilla, Cadiz, Valladolid, Espanyol, Valencia, Almeria. That's a 22 to 26 point range. So the bottom
yeah,
half of the La Liga table is getting very tight. It's heating up, and they're playing good football down there. We've seen definitely a lot of goals. I like what Valladolid's doing. I really hope that they stay up. Kyle Laren's been breathing a lot of life into that club. They're a newly promoted club too, so like staying up and keeping Kyle Laren would be good for them. They could kind of build from that. Espanyol being this far down after getting rid of not getting rid of. RDT kind of forced his way out of there, but like
Mhm.
after thinking that they were going to have a pairing of RDT and Joselu to be 1 point clear of relegation right now, that's not where Espanyol wanted to be. Valencia, they've had they've had personnel problems for a while, but they still have really good players. But the fact that they're down here in a relegation battle with Elche and Almeria is a little bit ridiculous for them and their standards. So I think the bottom of the La Liga table is definitely heating up.
Yeah, could add some drama for sure. We gonna do Germany next?
Sure. Germany, on paper, this looks open. Dortmund's in the first place in Bundesliga since like I don't know 2019. That said, the books still are giving you minus 500 on Byron to win the league. So yeah, I mean,
Is there a
good for
bet on
Dortmund.
Dortmund? Would you? I was gonna say, what's the price on Dortmund, and would that be worth a bet for you?
For me, no. But I mean, so here's the thing. Like, I think Byron's out of their fucking minds firing Nagelsmann right now and hiring in a new coach. You are in the UCL semis and you're going to fire a coach over international break, and then you got about 2 weeks to get your shit together and go play UCL ball against Man City. I know Man City has a rep for choking in UCL, but like Byron, getting rid of Nagelsmann right now, terrible fucking call in my opinion.
I mean, the players didn't like him. They thought his game plan sucked, and the board didn't like him really. He was a dead man walking, and I mean
Three
Thomas.
games. That's all it takes at Byron. You lose three fucking games and you lose your job.
Yeah, I mean it's they've drawn 7 times too. It's not just that. That's the story. There's a lot of drop points there. Um, yeah, they're in a into the semifinal, but we'll see how it plays out. I mean, Thomas Tuchel is was right there. He was available. He's a better manager than Nagelsmann. He is, he's won the Champions League, so he's familiar with Pep and his tactics. Obviously, from this time working with Chelsea. I think it'll be probably too late for him to really put an impact on too much. This season's still got plenty of time in the Bundesliga for them to win. But yeah, I mean, Champions League, you've got a month before these games are played still, right? Or not a month. I guess it's more of like,
You get 2 weeks because
yeah,
everybody's
you got
going
like
on
two and a
international
half,
duty for the
two
next
and a
two
half, 3
weeks.
weeks or so. I mean, it's not a ton of time, but Bayern's system's not going to change too much. It's just going to be maybe about uh, whatever Tuchel wants to do is maybe it's reorganizing, getting a few things shaken up. Just getting a new voice in there might be what clicks because yeah, I mean Bayern in Europe have played well. They're exactly playing like Madrid are on the same kind of path. Where like in Europe they've looked fantastic. In the league they've looked pretty pedestrian by their standards. And I
Yeah,
mean,
their
yeah,
standards are skull fucking people by 4 goals.
well,
Like,
yeah, I mean, you've only won 15 matches out of 25, so that's just not good enough. I think you know they their defense has been okay. But I don't know. I Bayern fans that I've seen and I've talked to John a little bit. He was a little surprised, but it wasn't something. I guess he was surprised at the timing. He wasn't surprised that he was fired. More of
no, yeah,
more of the timing.
I kind of knew Nagelsmann was gonna be out. And like I think the only reason you make this move now is because somebody else was close to signing Tuchel or something. I don't know. But I just found it super strange. I think right before Champions League semifinals is a really bad time to change managers, no matter how much the players don't like him because they're winning. Um, and I don't think that they played super poorly against Leverkusen. It's just Leverkusen's a good team. Like Xavi Alonso's got that team humming. They picked up a ton of momentum since they hired him, and they're playing good ball. Um, I, my thing is like Byron's absolutely crushing everybody on goal differential. So like this title race seems close, but it's not. Like if it comes down to it, there's no way Dortmund catches up to the goal differential. Byron's got almost a whole 50 piece in goal differential.
Yeah, I mean it's just I guess a matter of the directors not getting on, the players not getting on. It was a pretty expensive sacking for them. I think he had a 5-year contract and he
Yeah,
wasn't
he was under deal until 2026.
yeah, he didn't even finish 2 years. So I mean, they're going to be paying him for a while now to walk away. But I mean, that's the business at this top end, and the Bayern is a $1 billion franchise, and so they're not going to save a few million here or there if they think it's not going the right way. I don't know. I mean, Tuchel, he was right there. From everything I've heard, he was already living in Munich, and they were just like, you know what, we'll make the move, and I guess we'll find out what happens. I mean, if they can sneak through Champions League past City, that would be pretty wild. Um, I don't know if it impacts the odds. Like, have we looked at that? I don't. I know that City were a favorite. They were about a minus 120 favorite to go through. I want to see if that impacted the odds at all. Dismiss City Champions League here. We've got to advance. City have gotten a little bit higher. They're about minus 128 now. Bayern plus 104. So, I mean, a couple cents has tricked in City's trickled in their direction. So, I don't know how I feel about it. I guess I'm kind of I don't care too much. I think they'll just keep humming along. Bayern is one of those teams like it doesn't matter who the coach is. Like they're going to just keep plugging in. They'll keep buying international stars. And
And my thing is, if the coach really doesn't matter that much, why'd you sack Nagelsmann right before Champions League? Like
he
that's
must
my
have been a
thing.
prick, and he was making the workplace untenable. Like that's probably what happened. Like if I had to guess, it just had reached a boiling point with some of the players and his bosses that they're just like, you know what, we're gonna take our medicine here.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. I wouldn't be surprised if it blew up in their face, to be honest with you. I would not be surprised that if it costs them Champions League and costs them their first Bundesliga title in a decade. I just wouldn't be surprised at all. And I think I'm not cheering for it, but I know that would be just excellent vindication for Nagelsmann.
Yeah, I mean he'll land on his feet. He's still a very young coach. He's like younger than me, and he's already managed Bayern Munich. I mean it's pretty remarkable what he's accomplished so quick. And in Germany, the coaches recycle themselves so fast. Like most of these coaches have coached 3 or 4 clubs in the Bundesliga already. It just he'll land on his feet. He'll probably get a nice another job, repair his. Uh, that's the other thing too. Some coaches are better project men, at building something, and it's hard to go in and work at the top club. Like you mentioned with Ancelotti before, like he's great at managing those uh, egos, managing those uh, personalities, and all of those types of things that are in there. Uh, he may not be as suited to taking an Everton job where he's got to build a project. You know what I mean? Like, and then vice versa, where you got like a Graham Potter who's great at building things at Brighton, but then he goes into the Chelsea locker room and they're like, "Who the fuck's this guy?" Like, like it's tough. I mean, so not every job is a perfect fit, and I do think Nagelsmann's more of a project guy because with what he did at Hoffenheim was really good, and it got him the Leipzig job, which he obviously did a good job there too. But Yeah, I'm sure he'll land on his feet. But if I were him, I'd take a couple years off and just enjoy that bread, man.
Yeah, yeah, Nagelsmann. Personal advice. I know you're not watching, but like, yo, don't take the PSG job, dude. Like, don't. They're gonna offer it to you. Don't take it. It's a fucking mess. Just don't stay as far away from the PSG project as possible. Every manager out there, unless you desperately need a job, don't take the PSG job because it's a nightmare.
Hey,
Um,
I would take it for the money alone. They're going to pay you nice, and then
sure.
you're not going to finish the contract. So, uh, in the meantime, you'll probably get a trophy or two while you're
Oh yeah,
there. You
you'll
know what
win
I
the
mean?
league. It's
That,
impossible not to win the league.
that's what I mean. And that's where Bayern kind of feel like for themselves. Like, hey, it's impossible for us to not win the Bundesliga with this squad we've put together. But yet here we are, more than 2/3 of the way there, and he's fucking up. So like, maybe that's their thought process too. Who knows?
Um, Over in England,
Yes.
we got your boys at top. We got the
Yep.
Gunners still holding strong, 8 points clear of City. Um, City is 11 points clear of Man U. So the top two will contend with each other, but they won't contend with anybody else. So it's either going to be City or Arsenal to win that league. And there's no way Man U catches up to that many points. It's just not possible. Tottenham is in a tough battle right now with Newcastle. Liverpool's been slowly digging themselves out of a hole.
Yep.
Um, you know, there's definitely a big jockeying position here for those third and fourth on the table spots with Man U, Tottenham, Newcastle, and Liverpool. Even Brighton and Brentford are sitting right there too. The
Yeah.
bees, they don't have what it takes to make it into the top four. I would love if they did, but they like watching them drop 2 games in a row at home. That right now at this point in the season, you're not a top four team if you can't win those games at home.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, so assume that City win their game in hand, and it would be a 5 point gap. Currently, it's an 8 point gap, but like we said, the game in hand. I'll assume they'll get the victory. There is a head to head where Arsenal go to City, and I'm already assuming that that's going to be a loss. Um, so effectively, we've got 2 points to play with in my head. That's kind of where I'm like, all right, we've got a 2 point gap. And then once that's done, that means there is 9 games to hold them off with a 2 point gap. And there's a lot of games that Arsenal have at home. I think we have a lot of winnable games. We do have Newcastle away, which is tough, and Anfield away. Uh, I already mentioned the City away. Those are the 3 big away fixtures, but very winnable games at home against West Ham, I believe, and I don't have their schedule right. I might as well just pull it up. Fixtures. I know we end with Wolves. All right, so pulled up here. We got Leeds out of the international break. You need to get that win. Obviously, any points we can get at Anfield would be huge. West Ham is away at the London Stadium. We host Southampton, host Chelsea, host Brighton, go to Forest, and then host Wolves. So I think if Arsenal can pick up another, I want to say like 15 points. I feel like maybe 16 points will probably be enough if we can grab it here. Um, it's just a matter of getting the wins on the board that you're expected to, and if we could steal some points from Liverpool, if we can get a point from Newcastle away, any result we get at City is huge. Like that would probably do it for us. Um, City of course have commitments in the FA Cup and the Champions League to deal with too, so they've got more fixture pile up than we do. It's smooth sailing for Arsenal, just the league here. So treat every game like a cup final, and you should be winning the league at the end. You mentioned for the Champions League spots, I think Spurs have played a couple more games than Newcastle and Liverpool and United. But they've got the points on the board, I guess, yeah, as the saying goes. That's always good to have the points on the board. But I think Newcastle can pip Spurs for fourth. Liverpool would need to go on a pretty good run here. They can't afford too many drop points the rest of the way. But if they win their two games they have in hand, they're only a point back on Spurs. So it's right there. It'll probably come down to the last week. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to see how that shakes out. And then the drama at the bottom of the table is really what's crazy.
Yep.
You mentioned like the tightness of the race in Spain. Um, there's nobody that's fully down. Even Southampton could pull themselves up. West Ham and Bournemouth have a couple games in hand on Southampton, but they're chasing the teams in front of them. And it's 12th through 20th, like we had talked about last week. Palace sacked Patrick Vieira. Didn't really help Arsenal. Went there, or Arsenal took care of business at home against Palace. Any of these teams could go down, and it wouldn't surprise me. We've seen manager changes at Leeds, at Everton, at Palace, at Southampton. It's all over the place. If I had to guess, if Leicester can get Madison healthy and Vardy kind of fire, I think Leicester just might be lucky enough to get themselves out of it. I like what Forest has done. I think Forest can kind of get themselves out of it, and I just don't know what's going to happen between Leeds and Wolves too. I would say Wolves have shown me just enough fight that I feel like they'll probably hold on to. I would say it's going to come down to probably Leeds, Everton, and West Ham as that third team that goes down if Bournemouth and Southampton can't pull out of it. But hell, you never know. I mean, you look at the form on the site, you see it, and it's like, okay, Palace hasn't won in 5. Forest hasn't won.
Leicester's only gotten a draw in their last
Yeah,
5.
Leicester's form hasn't been great. Leeds have grabbed 2 wins in the last 5, so that's positive. Bournemouth 2 wins in their last 5. So I mean, that's what you try to find is like some people that are being able to at least grab a result at this time. But hell, I don't know. It's always going to come down to whose striker gets hot. Like at the bottom of the league, that's what's so fun to see. Is like who can they throw in there that can grab you 3 goals in the last 5 games and give you enough goals to stay alive. So
Absolutely. Switching over to some international talk. Today's biggest and most bettable game is going to be France versus the Netherlands.
sure.
Mbappe gets the captaincy. I already locked in. He was plus 130 for an anytime goal. First game as the captain with France. I'm taking him for an anytime goal at plus 130.
What book did you have 130 at?
I had a free bet on MGM, so I used a free bet on MGM. He was also plus 130 on DraftKings.
Nice. Yeah, I'll probably be willing to throw in an Mbappe flutter as well. I think that should be good. We don't have lineups will drop in an hour or so. So
yeah, afterward, at 2:45.
Yeah, we've got some time.
No, 3:45. Fuck.
Yeah,
Daylight savings.
3:45. Yeah, they haven't moved to with the daylight savings, but the Dutch side, I mean, I know they're going to be missing a lot of players. I've heard it. I looked at their squad. I think they're missing at least a half a dozen of their normal first team. So I think obviously you got to make France favorites to go through here. They're going to have a strong squad no matter what. And then an Mbappe goal at that price is almost too good to pass up on. And whoever else is up there in attack with him, whether it be Coleman, Griezmann, whoever they decide, if it's Giroud or if it's what's the dude's name from Mönchengladbach? I'm drawing a blank right now. Marcus Thuram is if he goes up there. I think any of these guys can give him some problems. But well, I also want to look at who's in the Dutch defense. If Van Dijk's back there and playing, um, and I don't know, Nathan Aki maybe, because De Ligt I know is out, and there's a couple other guys that might be out too in that back line, like Dumfries I don't think is there. Um, I don't know. For me it's a lot of speculation, but I do like the Mbappe look, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and then the next game that's really good, in my opinion, is Sweden versus Belgium. Sweden has a lot of good players. Isak, Forsberg, potentially even Zlatan if he's still making the trip out there. Belgium's in complete disarray. The team fucking hates each other. That they've underperformed in their last big tournaments. They're kind of at each other's throats. Kind of ripe for a little bit of an upset here, but they still have the likes of Lukaku, Bats, KDB. They have a ton of talent. So I think there'll be some goals in this game. But I do like Sweden a little bit here to throw a wrench in Belgium's plans because the Belgium team needs turnover. It needs new management. It needs, you got to start looking at some guys and figure out what the hell you're gonna do moving forward. Because you got your asses kicked at World Cup, and you can't walk into Euros with that same team.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned, a team that's transitioning from their golden generation of Hazard and KDB.
No, Thor's still there. Thor
No, I'm
Hazard's
talking
still
about
there.
Eden
Oh,
Hazard.
the
But,
giant $100 million piece of shit on my bench. Yeah,
hey,
he's not good.
nobody made you guys buy him.
Well, I mean, it was that or keep being stuck with Murata. Like, at the end of the day, I'm kind of happy whatever. It's
Yeah,
dead money. I can't do anything about it. It just didn't pan out for us. But
yeah,
at the
he's
same time, if we didn't make the trade, we'd be saddled with Murata on Murata's contract, and I wouldn't be happy with that either. Neither of them can find the pitch for Madrid as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. I think I guess I'd want to see the lineups again. I gotta always, these are so lineup dependent with these. I do like that they're qualifiers versus like Nations League or something
Yeah,
like
versus
that.
meaningless. Like,
Right.
yeah,
And so you
points do matter here.
right, you get a little more burn out of the starters. You get your full 70, 80 minutes, depending on any tactical changes. But like, yeah, I mean, Swedes, they've got some nice players. You mentioned Isak, who's found his form. Him and Kulusevski, I think, have enough up front that they can trouble the Belgian defense. Um, I would be shocked if Zlatan is playing like anything other than a super soul. Because I thought he retired from international football, but
I did
um,
too, but he
yeah,
played he played their last set of internationals.
yeah,
So
he
yeah,
just hey, when you're that good and when you're Zlatan, I mean, he's
when
never been
Zlatan
about
picks up the phone, you answer. Like
right.
when you get a call from Zlatan, you fucking answer that thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean Forsberg. I know he's your guy from Leipzig. I think he can pull the strings nice. They do have some good players. So, um, but I mean, you'd be fooling yourself to say their squad's as good as Belgium's. But I would assume it's Trossard, De Bruyne, Lukaku. I think those guys have enough to get a couple goals. Because where Sweden are not strong anymore is kind of their defense. They used to have a lot of good defenders, but the only guy I really know anymore is Lindelof, who can't get a game at United. The rest of these guys, I don't even know where they're playing their football at. Like, and that's probably a fault of my own. But they used to have tons of Premier League. talent in the defense, and not so much anymore. And maybe they're just deploying their football in other leagues, but I yeah, I think there's a young kid that I've seen some rumors about. He plays for, I think, Verona, but yeah, the Belgian team, they're too good. I would say with that much quality, it's just about putting it together. And maybe they were bored of Martinez and his voice, and maybe a little bit of some new blood in there is just what they need. But what if we can get good lineups? Unfortunately, we're not going to be on long enough to get lineups, but I do think I would be looking at a contribution for a goal from Trossard if he's playing. He's been in really good form, obviously, with Arsenal. And then on, like we mentioned, the France side of things, I think you get Mbappe's goal. Those would be my two favorite looks. The rest of the slate, I mean, Serbia's playing, and I'm assuming we get Vlahovic and Mitro up top.
I think you'll get Mitro. I don't know if you'll get Dusty because Dusty
Why not?
hasn't looked right. He hasn't looked healthy. He hasn't. I mean,
Well, he's been. I mean,
and
he's like not finding the back of the net. Like, we'll say that he did get the one goal, but he's got that that curse where just nothing will break right for him. He'll get a header that'll bounce off the post. He'll hit his penalty against the post. He'll do. But yeah, I mean, they've got enough dogs in this Serbian team to put in work. I mean, that Kostic to Vlahovic combo from Juve, love it.
yeah, you gotta remember they're playing Lithuania though, so like the prices on all these guys are gonna be ass because
right.
it's
You got
Serbia's like 20-1 favorites. So
right.
like unless you're gonna take everybody on Serbia's front three to score, you're not gonna even sniff a plus sign.
We got Kostic and Milinkovic Savic for assists, perhaps, or Dusan Tadic, or whoever it ends up being like up there. They've got so many good players that I think they could hang a crooked number, a 4 or 5 up on the Lithuanians. But hell, I thought Portugal would bless Liechtenstein, and they decided to just kind of fuck around and play with
Well,
their
they just
food a
waited
little
to
bit.
the second half to do it.
Well, and even then, I mean, it's like you got 80% of the ball and you're just taking a bunch of pops from distance and stuff. I get it. Like there's a difference between like being aggressive and trying to get goals and then just kind of controlling a game. And I thought Portugal were more of, hey, we're gonna control this thing and take you look at their shot charts, they're just having fun. They're speculating. That's like in when you're growing up playing soccer. You're up 5 goals. All right, guys, you can't shoot from inside the box anymore. Like I that's one thing I would worry about. But yeah, Serbia should roll.
Um, competitive wise, I think that the number's pretty off on this one tomorrow. Croatia will be taking on Wales. Wales, they're done. Like Gary B's done. Unless you get an amazing game out of Hennessy where he stands on his head, this Croatia team should be able to handle business against Wales. Modric for a shot on target is always worth a look. Croatia, very tough team. Wales, sorry, but like you had your chance. The World Cup was kind of like your last call there. So I think there's value in Croatia.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
think Wales get kind of the brakes beat off of them here.
Because Bale's done. He's
Yeah,
fully
he's done
done with
done.
football. Yeah. So
Mhm.
he's now gonna go try to get his
Now he's playing
PGA
golf.
Tour card. Yeah. Right.
I'm
uh,
shocked. I'm shocked.
yeah. Croatia. Yeah. They should handle business again. It's a lot like Serbia, where whoever they throw up there, there's plenty of good quality and good midfield behind them to provide the service. Whether
The
it's
difference
Kramaric.
is Croatia is only like minus 135, minus 140 to win that
Right.
game.
Yeah, I think uh, they could get a handful of goals. It's just a matter of who they decide to start up there. Um, yeah, Kromrich from Hoffenheim has been one of their favorite guys to throw up there. So I would speculate it's him, but you never know. Yeah, Saturdays there's a nice little slate. What else you got?
I love the Spain versus Norway game.
Mhm.
You're gonna get Odegaard and
Yep,
Holland playing
Holland.
against a Spain team who I think is fucking ass. They took the armband away from Danny and gave it to Morata. As you saw, like in World Cup, Spain love to possess the ball and then do absolutely nothing with it. I think Norway will be able to get a goal or two on Spain here. I don't think Spain will be able to completely dominate the ball against Norway. I think Spain, if if they play not possession, lackadaisical, whack ass football and want to score a goal, they can. So we'll see. I would kind of lead both teams to score over 2.5 there, but you're going to see a plus number on Holland. So I'm going to bet a plus number on Holland.
Yeah, again, it's lineup dependent. I'm interested to see De La Fuente how his tactics will differ, if at all, much from Luis Enrique. Because, like you mentioned, Enrique's football was very possession based, and just poking and prodding. And we'll see if they can inject more direction and purpose in their play, because they do have, unquestionably, they have a very very talented team and a lot of guys who can provide uh, goals and stuff. So, I mean, the Norway side of things, it, I'm just trying to double check and make sure. Is Holland even playing? I don't think he is. Double check. Um, yes, Holland is withdrawn from the squad. That's why I thought I saw that on Twitter. But so without him up top, I see less likely. They do have Solarolf from Sociedad, who probably would take that spot. Um, I just probably stay away without Holland, because he's such an equalizer. I would lean Spain, probably get this thing done. But I don't hate the both teams to score. But again, so much that's going to be dependent on the lineup.
For sure. Yeah, that's kind of all I got.
All right, I'm good
It's
wrapping it up
it's a
here, man.
little yeah,
Slate's
it's a
tight.
little trivial to
What
talk
about
about
what
too
about
much of
USA
this stuff.
tonight?
And
USA play tonight. You got any angles in that?
yeah, I mean, we should hang 4 or 5 on Grenada. Yeah, we got
Yeah, we play
Grenada.
Granada.
It's nice to see Zach Steffen back in the squad. I think he's a better keeper than Turner. So yeah, it's nice to see Zach back with the squad. Pulisic needs tick. He needs to play. So it'll be
He's
interesting to see him. I think a lot is being made of the Balogun stuff and him being in Orlando the other night. It would be cool to see Balogun. My biggest thing is I
damn
love
right it
that
would.
the I love the
I want an
Ricardo
American
Pepe
at
to
Arsenal.
PSV. I love the Ricardo Pepe to PSV rumors I'm hearing right now because I need Ricardo Pepe to go to PSV and be the striker that we all know he can be and get fucking Greg Berhalter's dumbass out of here because he's a bad manager and we will do nothing in the World Cup when we host if Greg Berhalter is still our manager. So yeah, get him out of here. Turn over this roster. I'm excited to see Daryl DK play. There's a lot of these young American guys that I like. The the game will be worth watching. Again, it's impossible to guys give you guys any betting angles until I see one game out of this. Like I can't even guess who's going to start right now because right now on this international break, it's fuck it, call everybody, get them all here, get them in camp, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think for the U.S., again, who plays as the nine is always the question. Um, but I think Gio Reyna and Pulisic are locks to start. Obviously, McKennie in midfield would be a lock. I would think Dest at right back would be a lock. Outside of that, I'm not so sure. The goalies, like you mentioned, do they go with Stefan? Do they go with Turner? They probably give them each a half, honestly. Like Granada's not going to be that testing of an opponent. So, the Tim Ream and Anthony Robinson combo has worked well at Fulham. I would assume, that's what we rolled with in the World Cup. I don't really think they let themselves down. But like you mentioned, they want to look at Miles Robinson. They want to look at Joe Scally. They want to look at some of these other dudes. So it wouldn't surprise me to see some rotation. Midfield with who goes with McKennie? It's got to be Della Torre and Aronson, right? I mean, unless Yunus Munsa though. I mean, I thought he played okay, but he's more of a I don't know, a functional midfielder versus like he doesn't really give you much going forward. He's just an athletic body in there that's gonna not do anything too bad, but he's not gonna really progress things forward. And in a game where I think we dominate the ball and the chances, you'd want a guy with a little more technique. So I think Del Torre and Aronson for me with McKennie in midfield. And then you mentioned DK. I think you got to let him give it a run from the start, right? I mean, he's
I would. He's
yeah,
looking in great form for West Brom now that
yeah.
he's kind of over that injury. I want to say he scored in his last 3 games for West Brom. So
So
yeah,
yeah,
Daryl
maybe start
DK.
start him and then get Pepe the second half or something. Like
Yeah, see, like again, I don't even like. I assume Pepe's there, but I
yeah,
don't
he's
know.
there.
Like, yeah. Uh,
They're
again,
They brought in.
I
You mentioned they brought in a couple of other guys like Alex Zendejas. I'm not really sure about Taylor Booth. I know they brought in as well. Like these are guys that I think are uncapped or have one cap, but not necessarily in like a qualifying match. They may have been friendlies and things like that. So they're once this, I would say put your best possible team out there to start. Get you know three or four goals and then rotate it in. Let the other guys kind of come in and get some tick. Um, but yeah, I mean, their US isn't playable on there, but I think they should be able to get it a 3 or 4 goal cushion pretty comfortably. I'm not putting my fire or my hand back in that fire of first half goals uh, for a
did
minute. But
Caleb Wiley get the call up?
let me look at this squad.
If you guys aren't sure who I'm talking about, Caleb Wiley for Atlanta United having an
No, he's not.
absolutely absurd fucking season. This kid is a stud.
Yeah, the only MLS player is Miles Robinson in this camp.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So if he won't play or he'll play for Atlanta over the weekend, Caleb Wiley, remember the name. Kid's a stud. He's 18 years old. He's had 3 goals and 2 assists in his last 2 games. Scored an absolutely nasty one from free kick in the last game versus the Timbers. So yeah, if you haven't paid attention, pay attention to Caleb Wiley. Put him in your FOT mob. Put him in whatever it is you use to track young, talented players, because you're going to hear a lot of the name Caleb Wiley coming up here in the next couple of years.
wait. I got nothing else, bro. You want to wrap it?
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know there was a little less of a gambling angle here today, but it's still good to get together and talk football. So I hope you guys enjoy international stuff. Me and McAfee will both have more content for you once we see some lineups and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's a fool's errand to try and predict this stuff this far in advance. we haven't seen these teams play together in a while. Because if you didn't qualify for World Cup, I'm not watching international friendlies. I'm just not. So I want to see how these teams all kind of throw guys out, and then as the qualifiers go on, we'll have a better feel for everything and how it goes. So shout out to our sponsors, Picket Sports. Love Picket Sports. Use it, track your units, shop your best lines. Boom Fantasy. I've been really liking their college player prop offerings recently. Looking forward to baseball. I will have a college player prop for Boom Fantasy later tonight. Boom, daily fantasy app. Great way to get involved in the over under game if you are struggling to find legal ways to get into that. Since they're a daily fantasy app, it's a great little tool. Gold Boys, oh, thanks as always for hosting. I'm Burroaks77. That's McAfee. You can follow us right here on Twitter, Instagram, whatever the hell you want. Thanks for tuning in. This is Box to Box. Oaks out.